What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So I wanted to chat about two elite players on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball that this coaching staff seems prepared to finally unleash. And I couldn't be more excited for it. So on the offensive side, we're going to chat about Breece Hall. On the defensive side, we're going to talk about Bryce Huff. And in both situations, I would say as fans, we've been begging for this for quite some time. In Bryce Huff's case, over the last couple seasons, in Breece Hall's case with him just coming back from an injury, at least since we've seen him have that huge breakout game against the Buffalo Bills right away. And so starting off with Breece Hall, it's an interesting week for us to, quote unquote, unleash him, right? Let Breece go out there and feast. He's going to have to be the lightning and the thunder at this point in time with the way the running back room is shaped out and what we initially believed it could look like versus how the performances have actually been. But you, of course, have the huge storyline, which is Nathaniel Hackett and this Jets team rolling into Denver, especially after the comments that Sean Payton had, completely dismantling what Nathaniel Hackett was hoping to accomplish with the Broncos and kind of crapping all over his tenure with them. So, it's just kind of one of those situations, coach to coach. It's not something that's, publicly seen very often whatsoever. The last time that we had anything close to this on our coaching staff was probably when Rex Ryan was heavily criticizing Robert Saleh and the job that he was doing prior to the huge turnaround that we've seen Robert Saleh make with this defensive unit. So, and, he ended up coming back and apologizing and all that good stuff. Nonetheless, though, the team has extra incentive to go out here and want to dominate. And for the Broncos, it's not a good time to be in a vulnerable position, right? Right now, you're talking about them currently leading the league in points allowed and yards allowed, almost at a historic pace. They may beat out the undefeated Lions team from so long ago, 05, 08, whatever that was, for the Detroit team. And so allowing 5.6 yards per carry right now, walking into Denver, Breece Hall has to be salivating over an increase in his, rushing snaps that he'll be on the field for. Obviously, he'll eat in the passing game department as well. But things are set up beautifully. The storyline is there. We've already seen the performances from Breece Hall in very minimal attempts. And then now you have the fact that we're going to increase your workload. And then you have your quarterback who's actually looking like he's turned a corner and should be able to also help you benefit from not having stacked boxes the entirety of the game. And so things are set up for him to have an excellent showcase here, right? It's hard to say a breakout game, but in a situation where we haven't seen him touch, even 15, run snaps, I couldn't ask for a better situation to be in. So why are we so high on Breece Hall and him getting more snaps in a very limited scenario, sample size so far? Again, we're talking about a guy that, hasn't played more than 50% of the snaps. He's just coming off his season high versus the Chiefs, and we've seen huge games. He's already had 3 runs over 25 plus yards. He's averaging 6.5 yards per carry right now, which is good for second in the league, only behind Miami's David, Akane A-Chain, however it's pronounced, who's, averaging an insane, I think it's like 11.2 yards per carry, and he's done it in less snaps as well. Absolutely insane, but nonetheless, Breece Hall has already came back and established himself as one of the best running backs in the league once again. And, we still look at things on tape and say his season could look so much better still. We've seen all of those huge runs of over 25 plus yards. He's gotten gassed at some point, so the conditioning still isn't top tier. And I would argue you're still not seeing the top tier long speed that we saw from last year as well. But, you add on some of those plays, and he may very well be leading the league right now, not only in touchdowns as a running back, but also in yardage. So, knowing that kind of stuff, and then again, what we already talked about his load increasing and everything, this defense that can't stop a nosebleed, I get very, very excited about what he's capable of doing. My only concern will be we have seen a lot more carelessness from him this year than what we saw last year. 0 fumbles. We're already walking into this 5th game for us, where, he's fumbled twice on the season. So as long as we can get that locked in, we should be perfectly fine. Now, let's flip over to the defense and Bryce Huff, because I know that's probably the more interesting player for a lot of us. We already expected that Breece Hall was going to be great. Bryce Huff. Now, I saw some interesting comments that Ulbrich confirmed that, when they initially brought in Bryce Huff, they did think of him as purely a third down specialist, right? Smaller guy, did have the elite takeoff, did have the ability to go out there and rush the passer at a very, very high level, but you were very concerned about when he's on the field, teams running in his direction and him getting completely washed out of plays. And we've seen a huge change in mentality versus this Kansas City Chiefs team, where he's seen the most amount of snaps that he's seen pretty much in general in his tenure with this New York Jets team. Versus the Chiefs, he played 39%, which was basically a high for him. And in that game, with those added looks that he got, he had a career high in pressures with 7 and a career high in pressure rate at 38.9%, which is insane. You're talking about a guy that's generally, and we saw this last year, basically getting to the quarterback half of the time when he has the opportunity to go out there and rush the passer. And we know about the elite step quickness. He beats out generally every other defender when it comes to getting off that line of scrimmage. And then, of course, being able to get around the quarterback, he's generally leading the league in that category as well during his tenure with the Jets. So, walking into this season, he's had the highest pressure rate through the first 3 weeks for, those calculating. I think it was based on a minimum of 200% 200 pass rush snaps, and he was doing that at a 21.2% clip. So you think about, what do all of these numbers actually mean? Basically, prior to that Chiefs game, and again, he balled out there, he was beating out guys like Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett in terms of their effectiveness and impacting the quarterback and what they can do. Also, it's crazy because we talk about all of those numbers, but the efficiency of the entire thing is what's insane. He's had 222-ish rush snaps. It's one of the lowest in the league. He's in like the high 100s, right? I think 105 is what I saw. So you're not talking about him having, seeing the field 80% of the time. So the numbers kind of make sense with what he's doing and his skill set and all of that. The guy is literally a Jets team, and he's finally getting an increase, right? What we've seen out of the Kansas City Chiefs game is that the Jets are comfortable with where he's at in his run defense. He's not a huge liability. We're not seeing when he's on the field during those first and second downs that, teams are picking up first downs every single time. And as many, analysts that I've seen him beg, the offset between him being on the field for run snaps versus when he gets those extra pass rush opportunities pays off tremendously in the New York Jets' favor, especially when you're seeing all of the surrounding talent around him that's benefiting from this as well. So I couldn't be more happy. Hopefully we see both of them go out here and dominate in this Denver Broncos game. Again, a lot more incentive for the entire team to go out there and flex their muscle a little bit here. But seeing that both of these guys get unleashed only benefits the entire team. Zach Wilson's going to be happy about what that's going to look like. The play calling will allow them to open things up even further. And by the way, the Breece Hall getting, not being on a pitch count anymore is so clutch because there's a huge disparity in our running back room. Michael Carter honestly deserves to be running back 2 right now, but we need him as a third down specialist. But where we talked about Breece Hall essentially leading the league as a rusher versus Dalvin Cook, who's basically the worst running back in the league. I think he's averaging 2.5 yards per carry right now. It's insane. So we'll see. Hopefully he comes along as well. I hate the signing right now. I kind of hated it when it happened. I did have the hope that we would have a 1-2 punch there. But I also didn't want to disrupt the chemistry in the locker room. But nonetheless, focusing on Breece Hall and Bryce Huff, let me know what you guys think. Could we potentially be looking at breakout games from both of these players in the same game versus the Broncos? But what do you think the long-term effects on the season will be? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.